Hi Flosstube, it's Arlene here, and it's Wednesday, June 13th, and I'm doing a very different kind of Flosstube today. I am sitting in the chair that I usually sit in, but I'm not in the same direction that I usually am, up in my loft. And I had this idea as I was last week watching, or rather listening, to a Stitch With Me video. And because of what I have set up on my bobbin lace pillow, I wondered, if I made lace while you stitched, would it still be called a Stitch With Me video? So I wanted to try doing this, partially because of what's on my pillow right now, partially because I do love it when there is interest shown in bobbin lace and what it is that I'm doing. Let me start out by saying I am going to post a link to this in a few different places where groups and so on where the topic of bobbin lace has come up. And so let me just do a little brief introduction to Flosstube in general. So Flosstube videos have been around for a few years, and they are predominantly people who are sharing their love of mostly cross stitch. And it has been a wonderful community to be a part of. I started making Flosstube videos about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and sort of was a little concerned about being a part only because I do a lot of needlework other than cross stitch. While there are people on Flosstube who will share things like knitting and quilting and a love of books, so sometimes there's some book reviews that get shared. I do, in addition to cross stitch, I will do canvas work, I've done black work, I've done just different types, and I just wondered if there was an interest in seeing things beyond. I mean, I just discovered I really wasn't in the know of a lot of the current cross-stitch designers. From nearly the beginning, I shared bobbin lace, which I knew a lot of people just didn't know about. And what I learned is that I was welcomed into the community. So, I loved it. So for those who might be seeing a Flosstube video for the first time, you should know that it's a wonderful and large community, and you could go on YouTube and just like literally in a search bar, you know, type in Flosstube and you will find tons of videos. And what you just learn is that you find people that you love, whether it's a style you love, of the designers they stitch, the way they stitch, the way they talk, the way they share in their videos. Some people are very regular in their posting. You will find people who will post precisely once a month, or there are some who are precisely once a week. And then there's others who post, you know, when they have some things to share, when they have a update of stitching and life pieces to share. So I very much enjoyed being a part of that community and very much enjoyed being welcomed into it. So for those of you who are regular to seeing me, I had this idea to do this kind of video last week at some point when I was watching Stitch With Me, or listening to a Stitch With Me video when I was stitching, and thinking about that, a couple of things. Number one, I don't have the right setup to do anything like this usually. And I'll explain what's going on right now in a moment. But on top of that, I just didn't think I would have any interest in ever doing anything like this with my stitching. But I realized what I had on my lace pillow right now was something that is, I don't know how else to say it, fairly easy for me to work on. At least we're going to see how this goes, and be able to talk at the same time. It is not a complex pattern. So what I have right now, this is a book of just bookmarks, and this is this one right here. It's just a series of flowers. I could make it as long or as short as I want. I could stop it at any point. When you make a bookmark, I have a bunch of these plastic sleeves that I could put a bookmark in. I could cut it for whatever length. For anyone who truly wants to use it as a bookmark and keep it clean, they could keep it in the plastic, or you could take it out. The story behind why this is on my pillow right now is it was an idea. It didn't work perfectly. I had this idea that in the spirit of just sharing, just wanting to share about something that is truly another one of my passions. I need to make sure my hair doesn't get in the way here. That for the New Jersey retreat, back up for those who are new or don't know what I'm talking about, in May, I had a amazing experience for some number of months. I was building up to the point, because I organized and ran a weekend stitching retreat in New Jersey, near where I live, and it was a mile away. It took place at a hotel that was a mile away from a very large needlework store. We had 76 people come, a lot of them from the East Coast, but and I think that certainly the location made it an appealing location to have a retreat. But that said, we had people flying in from literally all around the country and even from around the world, representing 3 countries outside of the United States, which was awesome. So I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to just share. That's all I wanted to do, is just share about bobbin lace at that retreat for anyone who might be interested. And I knew I needed on my pillow at that time a pattern that would be simple enough. I didn't have to constantly be, referring to a diagram or directions or thinking too hard, so that I could do a little demo. Now, the real plan was that I would have something like this that would be nearly done. I'd be able to work on it and show people, and then it would be done, and I would have it as a raffle item. I didn't know how much there would be an interest in it, but other than the general idea that people usually love handmade raffle items, and if there was ever going to be a group of people that would appreciate a handmade something that you could see how long it takes to do, it would be a group of stitchers. Now, the truth was, what ended up happening is that I barely was able to get it started. And I got it started. I had it on my pillow. I was able to show what bobbin lace was. There was a point during the retreat where I did have the opportunity to work a little bit and had a group of people watching me. And again, it's just for the spirit of wanting to show something that you maybe don't get a chance to see very often. And so, but it was, there just was no place to say, yeah, and maybe some long time from now, well, not long, but anyway, I didn't offer this as a raffle item. You could see I barely have worked on it since the retreat was 4 weeks ago at this point. And I've barely worked on lace since then. So, because I have this on my pillow, and it got me started to think, could I actually do this stitch with me, lace with me idea? Well, I know you're not doing bobbin lace, but who knows? Maybe, because I am going to try putting this in a few places, maybe there's someone out there who is doing bobbin lace with me. We'll see. I will, it gives me an opportunity to just show what I'm doing, and I'm going to chat a little bit about bobbin lace as well as a few other topics. So I hope whatever you are working on right now, you are enjoying. A little bit about what I'm doing right now. So bobbin lace, for however many bobbins you have going on your pillow, you are truly only working with 4 at a time. So these are bobbins. They serve the same function as like a sewing machine bobbin. They hold thread. They look different, but they simply hold thread. So let me show you right here, I've got 4 bobbins, and the general move, or there's just basically in general 2 moves. You're either crossing, where you're putting one over this way, or you're doing what's called a twist, where you're taking 2, in sets of, in 2 pairs, and you're doing this move, which is called a twist. What I'm doing right now is a stitch, you would call it a bobbin lace stitch, where I'm doing cross, twist, twist, pin, cross, twist, twist. So I'll show you this, like right now I'm getting ready to do it again. Cross, twist, twist, and then I'm pinning, cross, twist, twist. And that's the general background. Now, how am I filming this? Why am I in such a different position as my usual Flosstube videos? My videos, I film on my laptop. The first 2 Flosstube videos I filmed on my iPad, which is what I'm doing right now. And I just realized what an awkward setup I had. And it was a little shaky and it just wasn't working. I think it was the first 2. I think by the 3rd one was the one I realized, you know what, I could do this on my computer and it would work just fine. And that's the point I started doing it on my computer. I have not explored too much about my phone. I have a pretty cheap phone. I don't do too much with my phone, I admit it, guys. But the whole people who do Stitch With Me, or even those many of you who I know film with your phones, you have a good setup, which would include something like a tripod. So when I was thinking about this idea, the few times in my Flosstube videos when I've tried to show a little bit of bobbin lace, the thing that I've run into is how difficult it is to get my computer's camera lens to get an angle going. So I started contemplating, well, how could I do this? And, all right, so I gotta pause here and just figure out what direction threads are going here. Let me also just say, so the pattern, what I'm working on here is called a pricking, and the holes are actually pre-pricked. Like when you are preparing a pattern, most styles of bobbin lace, you take the time to, it's got a whole bunch of dots, and you take the time to prick it ahead of time, and that way when you're working and you're going to put a pin in, it just kind of naturally goes in. And then there are times, which I'm literally doing right now, especially because this is a repeating pattern, where I am seriously questioning, yeah, there's a pinhole missing. Or there was a dot that wasn't put in, because I could compare it to what's down here. And see, here's where I need to count. Hold, because this one goes here like that, because it's between like the leaves of the flower. This needs to come out from here. There's too much space there. So, okay. What was I saying? How am I filming? Okay, so I go back to this idea, well, I could film a Stitch With Me while I'm lacing using my iPad, except the whole, how do I set it up? Well, then I had this little revelation. Okay, I actually had a tripod. It's a funny story, and simply put, it's something that my parents found in a closet that from a video camera they had, you know, from way back. And this was easily probably about 4 years ago, and they said, Arlene, do something with this. I said, when did you guys have a tripod? And they said, oh, I think we got it as a, you know, freebie when we bought the video camera. And I said, okay, how long ago was that? We never used a tripod with that video camera. I mean, I don't think my parents could barely use it. I was the one that was always operating it, you know, at the family events and stuff. And my first thought was throw it away. It can't possibly be useful. And then, you know, it's so old and how technology has evolved. But then I was looking to see how, you know, that old video camera was attached to that tripod. to the tripod, and I realized it was just like a screw. And I picked up my camera, my current digital, you know, nothing fancy, point and shoot camera, and realized I had a little, you know, screw with, you know, opening for a screw thing at the bottom, and realized that I could, you know, if I had any need to at that time, use that tripod, this tripod, with my current modern day point and shoot digital camera. And I thought, okay, maybe I shouldn't throw this tripod away. So I took it thinking, oh, maybe I'll donate it to like my school's, you know, photography department, which I didn't. I just had it. So I don't know if people will watch this. I don't know if there will be, you know, super amounts of interest. I'll be curious to see. I wasn't ready to invest in a whole setup, but I was willing to buy a $6 clamp for my for my iPad. So I will save you all the details of what tech crap I just was trying to deal with, but simply put, storage on my iPad ran out, downloaded that little 15-minute chunk to my computer. Let's see how long I get back. What I'm doing now, when you're working with bobbin lace, and this doesn't have, believe it or not, that many. I think this is 22 or 23 pairs. When you talk about bobbin lace, you usually talk about pairs of bobbins. But sometimes it's about bobbin management, how you can maneuver. I mean, you can see pictures, and I have done patterns with lots of pairs. So you need some way to like move the ones you don't need around. So these are the bobbin holders I use. It's a nice piece of wood with an elastic. The cheapo version is basically a thick popsicle stick or craft stick. And when I first started, I more or less had versions like that. Oh my gosh. So I wrote out a bunch of things to talk about, and I even have with me the questions from the Emily C tag and Letitia's tag from a few months ago, and because Trisha was doing it during a Stitch Mania vlog, she had questions from a McKenna tag from July of 2016 that actually had specifically a few questions that I thought were really interesting. So, but I also have other things to talk about, so we'll see what I end up babbling about and how long the storage lasts and how many times I will do this. I did, you know, especially for those who are regularly visiting with me, just the quick, you know, sort of regular updates since the retreat. Like I said, I guess my last video was about 2.5 weeks ago, and that was all about the retreat. I've just been in a state of trying to finish up my school year, and I'm not going to go into all the details other than to say it has been a really, really rough few weeks. Yeah, stitching life has been minimal. I think, like many of you, I need it. I need that calm and that peace, that meditative quality that stitching gives me, and even if it's only putting in one strand at night, then that's what it is. And just as hard as it is, that in some cases has been what it's been. I did bring up to show you what I have been working on, or at least mostly in these weeks. So just to show that I am a stitcher on Flosstube. So this is, you may have seen, if you're on Instagram, I am Works by ABC on Instagram. This is the piece that I've been working on. It is one of my own designs called 3 Lacy Squares. The vision would be that I would be doing all 3 of them sort of down vertically in a row. This is a Silk in Colors silk thread called Medieval Mulberry, something like that. And I love the color. I love the way the colors are playing out. I am trying and should be able to get this square, obviously not 3 squares, but this square done in time for StitchCon. So I am, having just put on my own retreat, going to a retreat in a little over a week, and I am looking forward to seeing some amazing people. I have counted, to the best of my ability through Facebook groups and my own attendee list, that I think there are 8 of us that were at the New Jersey retreat that will be at StitchCon. StitchCon is going to have 150 people, so it will, you know, have a different feel, and it'll just be so fun and interesting to see what it's all like. I feel so grateful that I was asked. So again, those of you who are new, so I have been doing my own designing and selling through my Etsy store, Works by ABC. I'll put a link below, for a little over a year now. And I have loved it. It has just been such a passion. Stitching has been in my life for years, for decades. And I have done some of my own designing, some of my own creations. But a year ago, this idea of I can go beyond what I do here on my own and maybe share my ideas with others, and maybe some others would like them, just opened up a whole new world. And now I look for inspiration and ideas everywhere. And so I was thrilled when I was asked if I would like to send a trunk show to StitchCon of my designs with models. And so that will be, well, I had in effect a trunk show, not in effect, I had a trunk show of my work at my retreat in New Jersey. You know, this is sort of a different venue. I wish I knew how much I should be explaining my lace and how much you're just fine with watching what's going on. The thicker thread, I have a little white rubber band on the bobbins that are just visually help me see it. Lace does not have to be done in white, mind you. This is a piece I wanted to do in white, but I think I have a plan of what I'll be doing after this next, and it will be in color. But the rubber band helps me, you know, see a thicker thread. It's called a gimp, and the gimp kind of outlines, in this case, it's outlining the flowers, and you could see that showing up on the pricking on the pattern there. And so there's a little element of needing to wind that gimp thread through the pairs of bobbins. And I also realized I started the inner part of the flower is a different stitch. So if depending whether or not you're watching or you're just listening to me, you may have seen my hands doing a different movement, which I'll show you in a moment. And I keep checking to make sure the iPad is still recording. So here we go. So in the center of each of these flowers is a little section of cloth stitch. And cloth stitch, again, you take your 2 pairs, and you just do a cross, twist, cross. No pin, you just move to the next one. Cross, twist, cross, cross, twist, cross. And if you were to look or analyze the threads really closely, it just looks like weaving. I mean, it looks like threads that have been woven through, or in between, or through, what would be the right, through one another. Back to retreat talk. So one thing that has come up in various ways that I've been asked about, that has been posted about, that I just want to address, I don't know how else to do it but to say it here. The retreat was amazing, wonderful. I have said, I will say, it was one of the most, if not the most amazing weekends of my life, for all kinds of reasons. I have been asked, like, literally since back in the fall when registration happened and some people said, oh, that weekend isn't going to work for me, I'll do it next year, like making the assumption I was going make this an annual event. But truthfully, there have been lots of people saying, are you going to do this again, Arlene? I don't know how else to say this. I so much want to do this again. I want to have the opportunity to bring people together. It was a lot of work, and so many people said, ask for more help. And it's not that at all. It's when you find something that you love and you know that you're bringing joy to other people, it's hard to call it work in that sense. My reality is that I'm going through kind of a odd time right now, and it's really hard for me to commit to what life is going to be like in 2019. And so I can't right now at this stage say yes, absolutely, and I'm working on dates and decisions and stuff, because I just can't. If you are the kind of person that sends good vibes out in the world, send me some good vibes. Hope that things will work out okay for me. And when, I want to say when and not say if, when things can settle down a little bit in my life and I can have a better vision of what the future might hold, I would so love the idea of being able to bring people together again. So that's about as much as I can commit at this point. I want there to be a New Jersey Flosstube Retreat 2019. And we'll see. Okay, so I'm working my way around this little flower. I realize that, and I don't know if this is true for all devices, because I'm just not someone who's does a lot of pictures and is on a phone all the time or anything. I have my iPad in selfie mode so I can see what you all are seeing. And in selfie mode, you can't zoom in. And I wondered if you would be interested in being able to see closer, but I can't get you closer in this mode. Like, I'd have to flip it around, and if I flip it around, then I can't see what you're seeing. So I don't know. Maybe I will at some point. Maybe I'll do the last few minutes flipped around if I can center it and so on. So, what I wanted to talk. Oh, so I was going to go through tag questions, but I ran into this little dilemma. Maybe I'm such a rule follower in the world, but then I get stuck when, no one tells me what the rules are. There's so many questions, not so many. So I was looking at Emily C's tag, and actually Letitia's tag and McKenna's tag. So I have all these questions written out here. And I realized that on all three of them, there are some questions that I have something to talk about, something to say. And in all three of them, there are questions that I guess you could say I could answer, but that just not interesting. And so is it like cheating if you don't answer a tag in a question? I mean, all right, no, that's a silly word to say cheating. But is the spirit of a tag that you must answer everything, because the spirit of a tag is to get to know people, as well as provide something for them to talk about while they're stitching or working, or in my case, making lace. Or is it, pick and choose, doesn't make a difference. Just listening, the few people I've heard so far that have done Emily's tag, I remember Letitia's doing her tag. I specifically remember the question in Letitia's tag was about something about to look at it. The question, one of the questions about places you want to be in the world, places you want, top 3 places you want to visit in the world other than New Jersey in May. And I just loved how that was showing how much she was excited to come to the retreat. And this was, I think, back in February or so. All right, so, but more recently, the people who've been doing Emily's tag, to my knowledge, have not been skipping questions. Okay, but let me do this first, because, so I wrote down all these questions. I've already been babbling long enough. I'm clearly not going to get to all these questions and all these tags. And if there is interest in what I'm doing right now, in terms of I make lace while you stitch, quote, stitch with me video, I'll do this again, and then I've already prepared myself plenty of questions so I can have stuff to babble about. Wait, pause while I'm figuring out what I'm doing here. This needs to go this way. But I have sitting up here, so it's already prepared. So I should get this part done. This was related to one of the questions that was on McKenna's tag. So this was from some time back, but it's because Trisha did it relatively recently, because it was from before I was ever watching McKenna, before, frankly, I knew about Flosstube. And the first question that McKenna had asked in her tag, which I think is quite an insightful question on its own, is what is your favorite color of DMC? And I guess I could pick out like a range or line, which is the, hold on, because I've got things here, people, hold on. So here is, oh, I need something white. I thought I had white paper somewhere. Yes, here. So here is 3746, which is probably, you'd say, the middle of the road, with 333 being darker and 155 or 56 being lighter, of that range of DMCs that are like blue-violet. And it's those blue-violets that I have to say that I think I would call my favorites of DMC. That just so appeal to me. But in being able to answer that question fairly easily, fairly quickly, it occurred to me that I had a little story that goes along with it. And because it's related to color, and because of so much of what stitchers do, you know, has color connected, I don't know, thought you might be interested. So, I need to, hold on one second, show you a sweater, or show you the color of a sweater. I meant to look, I forgot to look to see if I have ever worn this sweater, and again, I'm working on blue, and I don't want you to be like distracted by the blue. Oh, I should have had like a piece of white fabric sitting up here. That would have been so smart. Oh, here's, well, this is close enough. Okay. Here's, I mean, this is like off-white. It's like white muslin fabric, like off-white. Okay. So here's a sweater. Now I'm going to put on, I have been working without my light because I realized when I put it on, it created a bad reflection and you couldn't see my lace stuff. Okay. And it is, well, I'm not going to say anything about the color. So this becomes a really interesting color thought. Now, I love that I can do this. We can talk a common language here, people. We can talk a common language using DMC. Here is a couple of DMC blues. This is 796 and 797, so there's a couple of blues. Here's a couple of purples. Here's 3837 and 550. Okay, so I'll put them actually on top of the sweater. So we can talk this language by, I mean, you could, however it is or is not coming across on the screen, you could pull out those colors if you want to and look in front of you. And if I were to say to you, what color is my sweater? So here's the story. Now, this sweater's a few years old. So this story is from a few years ago. it's probably from the first year that I had it, not the first time I was wearing it, 2 or 3 times into the winter that I was wearing it. I meant to look to see if I ever wore it in a Flosstube video. I meant to check the thumbnails. Should I keep this? How can I do this? If I can keep working and still talk. Can I keep it over here? Let's see. So, I'm at school. Homeroom, 6th graders. I have my advisees, I have a homeroom partner, her advisees, these 2 groups, there we go, you could still see it. These 2 groups of advisees, plus, make up our homeroom, 10 minutes first thing in the morning. Little chat time, that's what homeroom is, okay? So I'm wearing this sweater, walking into homeroom, and my homeroom partner is wearing a sweater that is very reddish purple, like not royal purple, reddish purple. Jokingly says to me, see, you got the memo to wear purple today. And I looked at her and I said, jokingly but not, what? I'm wearing blue today. Now, I know, and if I hold it up really close. All right, now again, because I put on the light, there we go. I mean, it's bluish purple. If you were to analyze the threads of this, you would see both blue and purple in it, okay? So when I jokingly said, hey, it's blue, I wasn't like trying to be crazy. I knew it was bluish purple. So she looked at me like, but not so jokingly. She said, what, you're wearing purple? And I, stood next to her. And meanwhile, we were getting the attraction of the kids because, we often run our homeroom in sort of this kind of like, I don't want to say comedy routine, but, this kind of way. I was standing next to her and I said, look at your sweater. That's purple. Look at mine. This is blue. So, stood in front, kids, students, like, these are 6th graders, 11, 12 years old. Guys, what do you think? What color's Miss Cohen's sweater? And here's the part that really got to me. Almost everyone said purple. Now, I really expected, what I did something wrong here, hold on. Now, I can fully acknowledge it's got its purple parts to it. But this part of the morning, it really got to me that they were all saying it's purple. And I kept saying, but compare it to her sweater. And they could say, well, yeah, it's different, but it's just different shades of purple. So I then proceeded to have all my classes that day. And in all my classes, I asked, what color is my sweater? And I even had on the back bulletin board that year, a lot of teachers know this little secret, so it's not really a secret, but you could use like paper that is like, for background of bulletin boards, but it's better if you use fabric because it doesn't fade. And so I had on my bulletin boards that year, I don't want to say rainbow fabric, but there was like a strip of red, a strip of, I want to say yellow, green, and there was a strip of blue and a strip of purple. And both the blue and the purple were very much what you would call royal blue and royal purple. And I went and stood next to the blue and next to the purple. And in each class, kids could say, well, yeah, it's not exactly either of those. But literally the vast majority would say, like there were very, very few kids that in any way would cave to the idea. All right, I've made a mistake, people. Let me finish. Very few would cave to the idea that it was blue. This is a case where I have to take out. There's sometimes where you can fudge, but there's sometimes where you just need the pair of threads coming. You can't see it. I need a pair of threads coming from a particular pin, and I brought it into the edge, and I shouldn't have brought it into the edge. And, I'm not surprised because I'm talking. Okay, back to my sweater. So, what I was expecting from the day is, about half the kids would say blue and half the kids would say purple, and I'd be perfectly fine with it. But the fact that so many were, like, on the purple side really bothered me. Like, it really questioned my whole sense of colors. And I remember coming home and more or less pulling out, you know, I use DMC, as I think many stitchers do, as sort of like a, like I said, a common language. And I probably pulled out, you know, something like the equivalent of these guys, you know, something that would be a royal blue and royal purple. And just to kind of get myself okay with the idea that it really should have been half the kids saying blue and half the kids saying purple. And why so many of them said purple, well, it just makes you think a lot about color and how we perceive in the world. I know at one point, and it's still on my perpetual what could I do during Flosstube videos list, to talk about color. I have a number of books on color that I would love to share. My knowledge, I am not an expert on color theory, how you can use that in designing or frankly choose to ignore it. I am doing what's called unlacing here. You could call it frogging in stitching. I have never used that term super much, but sure. In lace, we typically just say unlacing or retrolacing, but I don't use that. I would say unlacing. But I don't know, that whole experience with the sweater, with the colors, just makes me very thoughtful about perception of colors in the world and perception of what you think something is, especially when you have so many giving you a impression. There we go. This was the pair that should not have been brought into the edge. So I've taken out what I needed to. When you have so many, and you know, there's something to be said about asking a question like this of 12-year-olds. That I don't know, it made me think a lot about it. And like I said, this happened years ago. And it's, you know, every time in the winter that I wear that sweater, I will always think of that story. And, you know, I know to myself what I think of that sweater color-wise. I love that color. You know, it's a beautiful color. And it's, you know, so here's the 3746 that I started talking about as a favorite DMC color. Here's the sweater. I mean, it's as good as I don't know what I did with it. I pulled 333 is too dark. The 150s, it's either 155 or 156 is too light. So this is as close as I think you could get. It's not perfect, but that's my little commentary on color there. So, I don't know how long to keep going with this, people, because if I add together these two pieces, this may be all you're interested in seeing me do lace. I don't know. Let me, should I share with you? I'll share with you what I think my next lace piece will be, which I was excited to realize that I had. Sort of the short version is some time ago at EGA like regional event at a market night, at a regional seminars market night. There was a group selling off, as sometimes happens, the stash of one of their deceased members, and she had a ton of is it Sudbury? The wooden, beautiful wooden finishing things, boxes and trinket holders and stuff. And I bought 2 clocks. I feel like I might have even shown these in a video at some point as what I hope to do with them at some point. Anyway, I have just recently acquired and I didn't even realize it when I purchased it, but a folio of bobbin lace patterns that I just had lots of pretty designs and doable, and I thought I can make these. And admiring it, looking at it, trying to, there's 10 of them in there, which one will I make first? Realized, and it wasn't even the one that I was thinking I'm going to make first, but one of them has 12 like points to it. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. I've been searching for it. It's not actively, but I've been on the lookout for a bobbin lace pattern that has 12 sides, 12 points, 12, you know, indications of some kind that would work on this clock face. And I got it. So I will need to contemplate threads and colors and how I'm going to do it, but I'm pretty sure that is going to be the next bobbin lace project I do. I've got literally a couple more commitments this week, especially tomorrow, a very long day of school life. I need to get this finished up and get to one thing for today and then a long day tomorrow, but then I will be able to declare this school year done, which is a good thing. I am anxiously working on, or just beginning to start working on, some new designs. I have at least 3 of them that I want to be stitching right now, and I just can't tell you how much I enjoy the thinking about and the planning of, and the oh my God, I just want to be doing that right now, and I will be. And I will be, and I know that the lace work will happen. I mean, this is just been, I have enjoyed doing this morning, and I will be very curious to see if there is interest in watching it, or again, more likely listening to me babble and looking up at the screen every once in a while. And if you are, I hope you will leave a comment. Let me know what you are working on while I am babbling here. I think I'm going to wrap this up right now. So I never did get a close-up shot. Like I said, I kind of struggled when I was playing with this ahead of time, just because in order to do the close-up shots, I have to switch around the camera, and then I can't watch what I'm doing, and so I don't know how good a view it is. But if there's interest, maybe I'll invest in better setups. So I ran out of storage right as I was doing a goodbye speech, so I just downloaded that and just wanted to come back and say thank you so much if you're here. I hope you enjoyed seeing my bobbin lace work. Let me know if I should do this again. I know it's a very different way of a stitch with me while you stitch while I'm doing something else. But it's just a way for me to talk and share. And isn't that what this community is all about anyway? Just sharing whatever it is that each of us has to offer. And that's what I have just loved in being a part of that. So thank you all so much. As always, love the comments and the support and the caring that we all give to one another. Till next time.